Now, the next presentation session is on navigating uncertain waters, 5 must-knows for startups. I would like to invite Minglani, co-founder and CEO of LottieFiles. Now, the idea of startup, right, and owning one is very attractive. You are pretty much doing something that you're very passionate about, but you want to probably make a lot of money out of it. But without proper guidance, how are startups to know what to expect and what will come up next? It is a very wavy ride that needs not just trial and error, but a lot of proper planning. So I think Minglani here has all the answers. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My role is very simple. My role is the next 15 minutes is to give you tens of books, at least hundreds of podcasts that you would have watched otherwise. I'm going to condense the knowledge in the next 15 minutes, 5 key actions, the most insightful actions that you can go and implement. We've built this company in the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we started our seed funding. We got lucky. We got investment from Kylie as well as Adobe. At the start of the pandemic, we raised $10 million from Microsoft. Followed on, at the peak of the pandemic, we acquired a company. And towards the second phase of it, we ended up raising our Series B. If you are using any of the top 500 apps on either of the app stores, you have come across multiple Lottie animations, period. If you all took a Grab or ordered a Grab food today, the little motorcycle that you see roam around, that's a Lottie animation. We are lucky that we get to have customers from 135,000 companies worldwide. These are designers, design teams who today use our product, right? So having passed it, what are the top 5 things that if you are thinking of a startup or you're thinking of a project or you already have a startup you're trying to scale, what are the things that you can take away from this today? Number one thing is profit pools. My recommendation to you would be take your industry and map out the value chain and look at where the profit pool lies. Let's take a study. If you were to take a guess for SpaceX, where is the profit pool? Is it in the guys who are, excuse me. Hi, time out, sorry, I just only hear you, I couldn't concentrate, sorry about that. If you were to take the value chain of SpaceX, where do you think that is? Is it the guys who are manufacturing parts for SpaceX? Is it SpaceX itself? Is it the reusing of those rockets, satellites, or space travel? If you were to take a guess, where do you think the profit lies? Any guesses? Profit actually lies in the satellites. That's why you would see Elon Musk and SpaceX looking at how can they send more and more satellites in the stage. If you were to draw your industry, look at where the profit pool lies. Let's take another example, the car industry. Where do you think the profit pool lies? Does it lie with OEMs, guys who are manufacturing parts? Does it lie with manufacturing people who are actually manufacturing cars, the BMWs and Mercedes? Does it lie with a car dealership that you and I are used to going? Secondhand sales or financing? If you were to dig deeper in your industry, you would understand the profit pool actually lies in secondhand sales, which is why companies like these are thriving. So my first recommendation, if you have a startup, is to identify your value chain, identify where the profit pool of that industry lies. The day we figured this out, we mapped our entire industry of motion design, and we figured out that the first portion is going to be a cost center for us, whereas the profit is in the workflow of animation. So today, if you were to go on LottieFiles.com, everything is about monetization of that entire workflow. Right? So number one thing, if you have a startup or a project, is profit pools. Second is product market fit. We are used to thinking of product market fit as binary. Either we have it or we don't. Right? I'm here to tell you that there are 3 stages of product market fit. If you were to balance this figure on the left-hand side, think market fit, think scalable market fit, think profitable and scalable market fit. Okay? And how do you know if your project, your startup, has 3 of these? Start measuring usage cohort as number 1, which means how often does a customer come back. Second, start measuring how often the customer spends with you, and then measure the unit economics of a customer. Right? So think product market fit, scalable product market fit, profitable and scalable product market fit. Right? If you are a startup and you have all 3, probably you're lying, or you need to expand into another product. And you would have seen different examples of industries who often, when they find a product market fit, start expanding into other products. Right? Examples are very self-explanatory here, and you will understand why. So they found the product market fit, and then they started to expand. The third thing I'm here to tell you is about moats. If you are unfamiliar with the concept of moat, I would highly recommend you go spend some time reading about it, because it's going to help you build your next big venture and scale it. Moats is nothing but, simply put, is sustainable competitive advantage. The key word here is the word sustainable. You ought to think over time, what could be my competitive edge today, right? Let's take a very simple example of Amazon. Jeff Bezos is known to often say, hey, customer first. Their first moat was actually customer love. They followed up by building a large warehousing, then followed up with large logistics. You cannot compete with Amazon's marketplace, period. And then they built an AI recommendation engine, and then they built Amazon Basics. If you were to search for a t-shirt on Amazon today, you can often find a t-shirt 1/3 the cost, which is sold by Amazon Basics. Why? Because they have all the data. Their moat is data. Their moat is logistics. Their moat is warehousing. If you were to take another example, TikTok. TikTok built the first moat, which was the network effect. You possibly could not compete with TikTok's network effect. Followed up with that, they started up looking with data recommendations. The day we figured out that moats matter, we built a moat on our platform, which is SaaS companies have a moat of switching cost. People do not leave SaaS products if there is a high switching cost. Today on LottieFiles.com, every 6.5 seconds, a new animation gets uploaded to our platform. If you are to view that animation, you need our platform, which means the switching cost is insanely high. Right? Millions of animations live on our platform. That's the third concept of moat, which is what we figured out. So far what we've covered is, if you are trying to scale your venture, you need to first worry about profit pools. Understand the value chain of your industry, figure out where the profit pool lies. Right? And we took examples of SpaceX as well as Carson and so on and so forth. The second thing that you ought to figure out is product market fit. Product market fit, scalable product market fit, profitable and scalable product market fit. These three, right? And the third thing that we learned today is the concept of moats, which is sustainable competitive edge that you can build over time. And moats always take time. You cannot build them over day one, right? Fourth is a framework. Feel free to take a picture of this framework. This has extremely been helpful to us as we have built this journey. Is take a triangle, and the tip of the triangle is frame of reference, which is, what does the customer think of you when he thinks of your brand? Second is your value proposition, and third is the true competition. I'm going to address only one key concept here, which is the magic word of true, right? We all know, if we are running a company, who do we compete with? Player X, player Y, player Z. But that's not your competition. If you were to take an industry lens of it, your competition would look vastly different. Let's take a real example of it. Let's take an example of Grab that we're all familiar with. The point of reference is what the customer thinks when he's thinking your brand. The point of reference to here is ride-sharing services. That's what customers thinks of you, right? And your value proposition is, hey, it's hassle-free. It reduces cost, or it reduces carbon footprint. But if you were to take Grab as an industry, or Grab as an example, their true competition is neither of these. Their true competition is car ownership. They compete with you not buying a car. They're not competing with Uber or Didi or any other company, right? So once we figured out the concept of true competition, we said, in our industry of motion design, who is our competition? Who's the true competition that we have? We realized our true competition is complexity in motion design. So often, when we have discussions internally, we said, who do we compete with? The hardship, the complexity, and the hard nature of building motion design. The day we figured that out, everything became super easy. If you log on to our platform today, every single thing that you see is dead freaking simple. And if you look at marketing message, we are democratizing motion design, which means we make motion design easy. Because we figured that's our true competition. Our competition is not another player sitting in China, sitting in Indonesia, sitting in Singapore, right? So the four concepts that have immensely helped us get to a global scale is, number one, figure out where the profit pools are. Number two is identify your product market fit. Number three, understand the concept of moats. It's going to help you tremendously, no matter what company, what business, what startup, or even a project that you're working on. Number fourth is understand, at an industry lens, who is your true competition, right? Competitions often are not player X and player Y, but another competition is, your true competition is usually an industry lens that you ought to wear when thinking of the thing, right? The last thing I'm here to tell you is, which you already know of, This really helped us. When we understood, hey, we're building a global company, we're building out of Asia, what is the Asia advantage? And I'm here to tell you that most ventures that are going to be successful are going to come from this region. Why? We did a simple analysis. We said, let's take a lay of the land. Let's understand where are the super apps or mega apps built. And we understood the mega apps are built out of Asia. Why? We said, let's dig deeper. We understood there are three big advantages. Cost, we are obviously all understand cost advantage. $100,000 in San Francisco is probably Sunday breakfast. Here it goes a long way, right? The second is cultural diversity, which means you could literally build a lot of ventures solving a micro and a macro problem. You could literally go into Indonesia or Philippines and India or remote parts of China and try and address the problem and build a massive venture, right? Third is the communities that are built here tend to be very strong. So when we figured out that Asia is our advantage, we started building the company out of here in a very different lens. The orange one that you see, the last one is community. That's what we embraced. So today, if you were to look deeper, LottieFiles as a company is built on community as a key vertical. If you go on YouTube, you would find 17,000 YouTube videos created by our community members, not by us. These are people waking up to promote our product and tell somebody else about it. That's why our CAC or C, cost of acquisition of a customer, is down to nothing, right? I'm here to tell you that next venture will be probably built out of Asia. If you are building a venture or thinking of one or scaling one, embrace it. The only thing that I would love to add to you as a last sentence is complete the sentence. The sentence is not built in Asia. The sentence is built in Asia for the world. When you figure that out, it's game changer, right? Thank you. These are the things that I wanted to share with you, but these 5 concepts have really helped us, and I hope that you take something back from them and implement in your startup. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay, for that insightful session.